Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the truth about the Charlie Kirk assassination. So, when it comes to what I mean by the truth about the Charlie Kirk assassination, is what it shows about the political situation that is going on in America right now. Okay? So, now that I mention that, let's get started. So, when it comes to what exactly I mean in further detail, what it shows about the political situation in America is that it just shows you the truth about what happens in life, and this is a life lesson for people to learn when people want to make things like they used to be, and not just make things like kind of used to be in American terms, how when people want to put other people down, based on things like race and so on and so forth. Okay, so before I get into further detail what I mean by that, I am not trying to say Charlie Kirk's death is justified, because obviously, all that does, if left-wing people were to say, oh, it was perfectly justified, it's just make us look bad, if anything, for that matter. Okay, so I'm not saying he should have been killed. Common sense would indicate that there are other ways to deal with it, because I know when situations like this happen, a lot of stupid people in the comment sections get overly emotional and try to put words in my mouth and say that I said something that I did not say. So no, I'm not trying to say he should have gotten killed, but the truth of the matter is, people like Charlie Kirk, especially with the person at the head of it, of Donald Trump, no surprise, are a perfect example of what happens, um, when people like them want things to be like how they used to be, okay? Because the truth of the matter is about Donald Trump, okay? Even as someone who is a free thinking person, not just left wing, but free thinking, I have to admit, CNN does have a history of just deliberately going out of their way to find shit on Trump and just, kind of look for things out of their ass sometimes, you could even say, just to make Trump look bad, okay? But the truth of the matter is, despite that fact, there is some solid evidence to prove that Donald Trump is a racist. Everything from statements he has made, like, for example, there's good and bad people for both sides of the Charlottesville riot, where white people were, in that region, were proclaiming, they will not replace us. They will not replace us. Okay, which of course is a white belief system that they're going to be replaced in America, to the fact that he has an image of Andrew Jackson, who was extremely pro-slavery. Um, you know, for that matter, he was an extremely pro-slavery person in American history, even by standards of like maybe even other American presidents who were pro-slavery, and even politicians, so on and so forth. He was very pro-slavery. He was an evil man, and he has an image of him in his office. You think he couldn't find out what Andrew Jackson stood for with all the people around him? Obviously, Donald Trump could. Not to mention the fact that literally after, for crying out loud, okay, the last president, Joe Biden, pulled the troops out of Afghanistan. The first thing he says, would this have happened if Robert E. Lee was still leader? Who, of course, was a big supporter of, no surprise, of the Confederacy, and was a general of the Confederacy for that matter. Those are three things that clearly indicate, yeah, you are racist, not to mention the policies that he has supported, like just having, like the racist policies, like the fact of like just have police everywhere. Too many of the things he has done, it's just clear as day, he does not like black people, okay? He doesn't like black people, and he terrorized Barack Obama, who didn't even really have the ability to even really do anything for that matter, and was definitely way better than Bush. So in short, Donald Trump is an evil man, okay? He's an evil man, and he's the head of this movement that just wants America to be like how it used to be. Just as the saying goes, America, make America great again, okay, for that matter. So now, back to the main point, is that the truth of the matter is when you support something like that, okay, people like Donald Trump and all the supporters, and in this case Charlie Kirk, a system like that is against people, specifically, most importantly, race. Not even focusing on silly things like, the LGBTQ plus bullshit, because that's more a lifestyle choice. What we are talking about here is race. Okay, the idea of, that people based on their race, you know, it determines their value of who they are as a person. Okay, which is a very bullshit theory, which was actually produced in the same time where people literally believe that breathing in bad smells got you sick, which shows you how much credibility the idea that race determines intelligence, let alone, your self-worth, uh, you know, for that matter, based on the time period that theory was released, how valid it is, because it's not valid at all, okay? And that's the truth about people, you know, like Trump, and Charlie Cook, who got killed this time, okay? They are supporters of that belief system, okay? And they are supporters of that way of thinking, and not just that way of thinking. They want America to be like how it used to be a long time ago. I'm going to be fair. I don't think Donald Trump wants it to be like the 1800s. Okay, to be fair, okay? He doesn't want to be like the 1800s. That wouldn't work. That would be inconvenient, and that would encourage riots and chaos and stuff. But he wants America to be like the 1950s and 1960s when it comes to his level of racism. He is a racist man, okay? It's clear as day to everyone. The fact that he has so many supporters who are racist and he hasn't put enough effort in calling them out shows, yeah, you probably are racist for that matter. Or not even probably are racist, you are racist for that matter, okay? Just like all those goofy right-wing commentators on YouTube who spend all their time and try to say, oh, I'm not racist, but you go in their comment sections, you just see racist comments, and they never call them out. Yet at the same time, they claim that they're not racist. Okay, it makes perfect sense. Sarcasm if you haven't caught on to it. So the truth of the matter is, when you are a supporter of something like that, okay, like his belief system, Trump's belief system, like making America back to how it was during the time of segregation, where everyday black person have much power, the only black people who had the ability to have any degree of power or any degree of say for that matter, and even then the smallest thing they do could make them lose their reputation, or just black celebrities, specifically black musicians, pretty much that way of thinking, like, let's make sure white people have all the privileges and so on and so forth, and black people don't have much power and freedom. They know their place, sort of way of thinking, like it used to be. That is something people like Trump and his supporters support, okay? They are supporters of that way of thinking, okay? And Charlie Kirk is no exception to that, for that matter whatsoever, okay? They believe in that way of thinking, okay? So the truth of the matter is, if you're a supporter of that way of thinking, okay, the truth of the matter, you have to realize the world has changed a lot, especially this new generation of black people. They ain't like the older generations who would have the worst things happen to them and just sit around and not do anything, okay? They're gonna do something, okay? And even when you see all the amount of white people getting killed nowadays, who it's turning out, not all, to be fair, but a lot of them, it's turning out, who are getting killed nowadays it turns out they said racist shit and were doing racist shit, for that matter. With the huge amount of white people getting killed, it shows that a lot of black people, are not scared of white people like they used to, let alone all the other people who make up the left-wing party, who of course are of different races. So the truth of the matter is, when you want things to be like how they used to be, especially when it's something as evil and it's dreadful, a time period where people, used to be lynched over the smallest thing. Like black people used to be lynched and put on trees just for looking at a white person, specifically a white woman, the wrong way. You support an ideology that evil. Like, how the fuck do you expect people to feel sorry for you when it kind of catches up to you, for that matter, okay? Like, I'm not going to go into too much of my personal feelings, okay, about Charlie Kirk and him getting shot, okay? But the point I made just now about like expecting people to feel sorry for you is something that I'm referring to specifically in that context for a lot of people who, of course, are on the left wing, specifically black people for that matter. So the truth of the matter is, that is the truth. If you don't want people to kind of hate you and do things like this to you, then it's a smart idea not to support something as evil as wanting America to be like how it used to be in the past. What they did in the past was evil. You watch the documentaries about it, you know what, not even slavery, just about civil rights. It is just disturbing. Everything from the way they move the camera angles to the way they discuss it to the music in the background. It is horrible what they did to black people in the past. And when you support something that evil, then don't be surprised when it catches up to you. I'm not saying Charlie Kirk should have gotten shot, but I'm just saying this is what happens when people support things like this. So anyway, this should serve as a lesson to people why you do not support things as evil. Okay? I don't know if people learn anything, but this is all I have to say, and some people I'm out. Bye.